Hello, Rams fans, and welcome to this edition of Great Moments in Rams History. I'm Rob Cunningham, Director of Athletic Communications at Thomas Jefferson University. Today, we're discussing the 1985-86 women's basketball season, in which the Rams set a then-school record with 24 victories, made their first NCAA tournament appearance, and went all the way to the national semifinals. I'm joined today by the head coach of that team, Julie Soriero. Julie, thank you very much for joining us, and hope you and your family are doing well in this interesting time we're in.
Thank you. It's great to be here. It's great to see Vincene again, and it's hard to believe that was 35 years ago. So yeah, but with really, as you invited us to do this call, Rob, I really was full of many wonderful memories about that particular team and that particular year. So thank you for inviting me to be here.
Well, thank you for joining. And we're also joined by co-captain of that team. That was her senior year, Vincene Morris. Vinny, thank you very much for joining us as well.
Oh, thank you. And again, I mimicked Julie, and thanks for the opportunity for the flashback. We'll remember some things, and a lot of things we forget, but I always will remember that team, remember, obviously our fabulous coach, Julie, and the great run we had. It didn't turn out like we wanted to, but I think it was an event that we all still talk about, especially through social media, those of us that are still connected. So thank you for allowing us to relive it again at a different forum than we did 35 years ago. So thanks, Rob. And great seeing you, Julie.
You too, Vince.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to this conversation. Julie, we'll start with you as we kind of set the scene for that season. 85-86 was your fourth season with the Rams. Before you arrived, the program was competitive, but kind of looked to be stuck in a rut. What I mean by that is they recorded between 13 and 15 wins 5 years in a row, so kind of stagnant in that area. Your first season was the Rams' first at the Division II level, and you steadily increased the win total, going from 14 in your first year to 17 in 83-84 to 18 in 84-85. So what were the keys to your improvement in those first few seasons?
Well, I think the key to any improvement is the quality of the players you have. So as you talked and went through those records, players like Vincene and Terry Troy and Rhonda McDuffie, and so they matured into really strong, really competitive collegiate players, and I think that's what made the difference. We made the transition in the jump from Division III to Division II, and I think the adjustment in the schedule and different competition, as they grew and matured, our program grew and matured, and with that growth and maturity came more wins and more success. So I really attribute it to the quality of the players we had. I also have to mention some really good staff that were there. In that particular year we're talking about, Ed Mullen was an assistant, and a young lady who graduated from Philadelphia Textile at the time, Karen Parker, who married John Pollard, who was also on the men's team, a really great player for the men's team. She joined the staff, and I think that in combination of a really strong staff and really talented players who grew and matured over those 4 years, it really made an impact on the program, and it showed their senior year.
And Vinny, you were a senior in 85-86, so you were there for all of that progression. Based on that, what were the players' expectations heading into that season?
So heading into that season, like we had, like Julie mentioned, we had the growth. We had, at least when I came in and Rhonda, we came into a group of that was already fortified with some great leaders. You had Karen, who at the time was playing. You had Mary Beth, who was another kind of floor leader, Claire, and I can go on, but we had guidance. And so it had allowed us, at least an opportunity to grow and to have some structure and leadership on the team to kind of follow through. And so they set the tone, and as a couple years in, as we start maturing as players and building the confidence, we had, they put that confidence in us. Like, Vinny, you could jump out of the sky. Vinny, you could get that rebound. Rhonda, you're the shooter. Terry, go to your spot. I'll get you the ball. And they put that confidence in us. And when they graduated, we kind of had the nucleus to, and the coaching to say, hey, we can do it. We just have to, a few things have to fall in our direction, stay healthy, be persistent, practice hard, play hard, and we can do it. And, I think that was the biggest piece in building up our confidence going into, the Final Four season. And the wins started to happen, the coaching, the confidence building, the constant staying on us. We had some injuries that we were able to overcome, and people stepped up. Our bench was solidified. So it was like a, old school family. Everybody played their part. And although some stood out more than others, it was never it was always a team. And I think that was kind of the platform that we stood on. It was being the team. Everybody had a role to play, and we kind of played it to the fullest. And when we got to the Final Four, and we put our best foot forward, and some things wasn't, didn't fall that way, and kind of interfered or interrupted with that flow. That's why we lost. It wasn't anything that we didn't do. We played our best, but it just, at the moment it wasn't for us. So.
Yeah. I'll jump in on a couple of things. I think that everything Vinny said, I've always called her Vincene, so I'm struggling with the part of it.
You're more than welcome to call me Vincene.
It is very true. But I think one of the interesting things about that particular season, which is different than where the program is now, we were an independent. We weren't in a conference. So every game we played became a must-win game if we set our aspirations to go to the NCAA tournament. So we needed to stay in the upper rankings of the Eastern region in order to get that at-large bid, since we didn't have an AQ bid. Also at the time, there weren't 64 teams that went to the NCAA tournament. It was only 32. So I think the other piece that really added to the excitement of the season, but also our success, and Vincene said, as we went into the season, we expected to win. And as we started to win, it just built momentum for a desire to have one of the best seasons we could have, knowing that there was a lot at stake every single game because we were independent. And we had a very, very hard schedule. We played some teams that, had perennially either been nationally ranked or had perennially gone to the NCAA tournament. So we had our work cut out for us. And I think as the roles everybody played, they understood, and as we won, it built momentum going into the final stretch of the season.
Well put.
Now, Julie, as we get started in the season, you won 4 of your first 5 games. Your only loss at Division I Drexel. Next was Lock Haven, where you pulled out an 89-84 win in overtime. How important was it to come out with a win there? Because your next contest, you did have a tough 2-point loss at Mercy. So that Lock Haven game is the difference between being 5-2 and 4-3, which might not seem like a big difference, but I'm sure confidence-wise it was.
It was a big difference. Well, it's always good when you win on the road too, and when you win in overtime, it gives you a lot of momentum. And oftentimes, a win on the road and a win in overtime, there's a little bit of a letdown for the next game. Games though that really stick out to me in that particular season. One was a win on the road at Adelphi. And we got stuck in traffic going up to Long Island. We got there about 20 minutes before the game was supposed to start. They gave us an extra 10 minutes to warm up. We were losing the whole game. This was at the end of the season, so this was a must-win game for us. We were losing the whole game, and all of a sudden, this was back in the day when there were jump balls as opposed to alternate possessions. And with about 8 seconds left, we got a jump ball. And we had a play we ran off the jump ball, but usually the jump ball we ran, it was off the center tip at the beginning of the game. And we ran that play, and we scored, and the buzzer goes off, and we win. The only time we had a lead was when we won that game. And that was pretty exciting. And I think that gave us a lot of momentum going into the conclusion of the season.
All the games are like, I don't know, it's kind of like a blur, because that season, I felt like we were in our own zone. And, being in the zone, like you just had that confidence. We went into every game like we were going to win. And true to, as you were stating that, as a different, as an independent, you needed to win. So we needed to win each and every game without, having the advantages of being in a conference, playing into, the playoffs or getting a conference bid for the tournament itself. So I don't exactly remember that game specifically, but I do remember beating like giants, so to speak, and and being a Division II school, as it had just really in the last few years or the 2 or 3 years prior moved up into Division II. So we were, kind of that team that you didn't want to play.
Right.
Being, we were like that little silent assassin that, a Division I school didn't want to play us. And we knew we had confidence that we could beat. We could have beat at the time. We thought we could beat a Temple if Villanova had given us a shot. We had the confidence as a team that we could play against St. Joe's. And I thought we may have, no, maybe not. But
we played Penn a couple times back then.
Yes, and exactly. And so, we had that confidence, and we were the Division II school that none of the number one Division I schools wanted to play because we were that threat. And we loved having that level of cockiness, although we never showed. We were very modest and, very unassuming team. But I remember just that confidence that we had throughout the whole season, and it kind of just mirrored off of everybody throughout the teams throughout the whole season. So,
and it showed in that Adelphi game. We never had a lead at all till the final buzzer, and we never gave up. We never put I remember that game in that gym very vividly, and we never put our head down, and we knew, okay, we got a jump ball, and we have an opportunity to score off this, and we did it. I think you described the sort of the on-court. It wasn't swagger, you're absolutely right, and it wasn't arrogance. It was a quiet confidence and a quiet belief in each other that whatever we set our minds to do as a group, we could get it done.
Yes.
Vinny, you mentioned being in the zone and even Division I's not wanting to play you. Well, that leads me to my next question. After you lost to Mercy, you won 12 of your next 13 with an average margin of victory of 16 points. So you were handily beating teams, even beating Penn by 16 points. What do you think was working so well for the team during that stretch?
Well, again, we were in that zone. We had confidence, and we were continuously, we suffered the loss, and you learn from it, and we still had confidence that we're still a great team. What can we do to not let it happen again? Great coaching, just staying on us, great practices, and again, just that confidence that, we had that swag, and none of us would admit to it then. And then when you look back 35 years later, and even when I've talked to Karen, several times, and we talk about it, it's like, yeah, you know what? We had that swag. Even the quietest folks, Connie Kramer, one of the quietest people on the team, had the swag, and you just see that little smirk here, we get a win, like, yeah, we did it. Like, nobody was amazed that we beat Penn. Nobody was amazed that we had a win streak in double digits. It was kind of, we kind of expected it. And so I just think that we just kind of drew off of that energy and just kept it going, and just kind of listen to the coaching staff, and just carried that confidence throughout the season. And I think that was just the biggest thing that I remember, that everybody had confidence, and we needed everybody. We needed everybody on the team, and it showed. It showed in the record. It showed in the win streak, and it showed in the progress that we made ultimately to the Final Four.
They didn't care, if one game Vincene might be the leading scorer, the next game it might be Terry Troy from the perimeter, and the following game it might be Jill Burkhardt, or it might be Terry Coleman with no turnovers. I mean, there was a genuine appreciation for what every person had to do to be successful, and there was no personal jealousies. They all got along. I know on the court. I think they got along off the court. Those stories I don't really want to hear. I'm sure that there are a few of them.
Everything's good.
But I think that was part of it. There was no personal no one was out for personal glory. Everybody was out for, we're playing this as a team and we're going to do as well as we can as a team. Sometimes people came off the bench and they were our leading scorers or our leading rebounders, and we were just as happy and it was just as important for us to have those type of contributions across the board.
Julie, you finished the regular season 22-5. You get into the NCAA tournament for the first time in program history. You mentioned being an independent, not in a conference, so that made each game more important in terms of getting to the tournament. But how did that help prepare the team to play in the tournament? Because you're seeing a larger variety of opponents and different styles of play during the season than you might have if you were in a conference.
Yeah. Well, I have to give a nod to the athletic director at the time, Harry Pure, because we put in a bid and we hosted the first 2 games at home, right? And we packed the old Alt-House gym. I know there's a beautiful new facility now, but the old Alt-House gym we packed, which means you're right on top of the floor, which was wonderful. And so we had a great fan base there. We played Slippery Rock, and then we played Central Connecticut State. And we were just prepared, and we were very determined. The one thing I do remember is our game plan going into Central Connecticut State. I saw them play, and they were just a high-octane offense. They'd throw the ball to half court to get a fast break. So we dropped guards back to push the ball back down into the backcourt so that we could slow their game down. But, being able to play at home with a home crowd, a very supportive crowd, I think was really beneficial. I know when we got the bid, I remember being in the locker room and I drew the bracket on the board and showed everybody who we would play. And, we got to buy the very first round, which also helped us, I think. And again, that's reflective of the success we had during the regular season. And we set our goals from there based upon who we were going to play and when and so on. And our goal became, that day that we had that bid, our goal became to go to the Final Four. And I knew with this group, as determined as they were and as proud as they were and as confident as they were, that this was a very realistic goal.
You beat Slippery Rock in the regional championship 73-60, and then you defeated Central Connecticut State 84-66. As you mentioned, both of those games were at home as you had the top seed. Vinny, those were the last 2 home games of the season for you, and you went a perfect 14-0 at home that year. The team also won 14 straight at home earlier in your career, which was then an NCAA record at the time. What made you so tough to play at home during your career?
Wow. Again, I have to throw it back to the team and throw it back to coaching, because again, these are, the different teams that we're playing and all of the adjustments that we were making, because of the coaching. The coach says, hey, you know what? This team is high octane. They're going to, as soon as the rebound is gathered, they're looking for an outlet, fast break. We have to do this. We have to do that. And just listening to the coaching staff, and I think that's, that was the biggest challenge. And, that was kind of the thing that kept us above the rest. We responded, our coaches responded, made adjustments along the way. And, like I said, I think the level of confidence that we had, the supportive system that you've seen a lot of families. I want to think that season was kind of the first season that I've had some of my family members actually showed up. My uncle, and specific, he gathered some family members, and so that kind of gave you an extra, adrenaline boost. And you didn't want to let your families down. They drove however many miles. Many of the families lived in the suburbs, and they were loyal and they were there and very supportive. Even if you had a bad game, even if the team won, you had a bad game, they were there to pick you up. And I think that's the home court advantage that helped us, during those the win streaks that we had at home. And two, like I said, we felt that we were, if we played our game, if we listened to our coaches, and if we did what, if we were at our best at all times, we were unstoppable, So I think that was it. I think that was how we made it through.
So you're one of 4 teams left heading to the semifinals in Springfield. What was the team's confidence level at that point? Yeah, you coach mentioned that your goal was to make the Final Four. You're in the Final Four. Were you expecting to win, or was it more of a let's go out and play our game and see what happens type of move?
If that's for me, yeah, we wanted to win, but it also was like, wow, we actually made it. We're here. And so now it's like, you know what, we're here. Enjoy the moment, embrace the moment, but now it's put up or shut up. It's like you've done all the great things to get here. You've had all of the tough games you won. You had the win streaks, and now your family's here. People are driving up or flying in to support you, and now you don't want to let them down. It's like we brought you this far, and so we wanted to play our best game, and certainly it was scary. For a moment, you come out to this court and it's like, wow, we are actually here. Certainly a bigger gym than Alt House at the time, so that was intimidating in itself. It's like, oh wow, this is a whole. It kind of reminds you of, at the time, going back, showing my age, back to the Spectrum. It felt like an NBA length of basketball court. Thank God we were in shape. Thank God all of the wind sprints and all the other things paid off. So we enjoy the moment. And I think we all, had a little stage fright for a minute. But after a while, it's we're here. There's nothing you can do but put your best foot. We can play with these guys. We're all the same. And so let's just do it. And so I think specifically, during that, the Final Four, we after we overcame our shock a little bit, I think we were, I don't remember the exact score, but I think we had lost a lot of, we were a little far behind. But we started to get some balance. I was in foul trouble and, wasn't able to get fully into my game. But at the same time, I knew that my teammates, I said, you guys can still do it. And I think it just took us a while to realize that we could have done it. If we had an extra quarter, we probably would have won.
I can remember, too, that we were a little bit of an outlier to even be there. You had Delta State, which had been a perennial Division I competitor for the national championship during the AIAW days. And you had Cal Poly Pomona, who had won numerous Division II titles. So us and North Dakota State were a little bit of the outliers. In fact, a lot of people were saying that probably Delta State and Cal Poly Pomona should not be playing each other in the first round. But because of the seeding, that's just the way it turned out. North Dakota State, they were big, they were strong, they were fast. Their guards were 6 feet tall. They were a very impressive team at the time, and actually they still have a really great program now. But they were a very impressive team. And as I said, we were a bit of an outlier walking in there, and maybe a little shell shock too. And I often wonder what would have happened if we set the goal in that meeting to go to the Final Four. Once we achieved that, if we had set the goal beyond that, I think we were very proud and happy to be there. And I'm not saying we rested on our laurels by any stretch when we walked into that gym, but I've always regretted not recalibrating what our goals might be to see what could have happened. We might have still not beaten North Dakota State, but it would have been interesting to have done that.
The final score was 77-61 in favor of North Dakota State in that semifinal game. You finished with a school record 24 wins in 85-86 to just 6 losses. They're named the ECAC Division II Team of the Year. Rams went to the NCAA tournament for the first time in program history. Going to the national semifinals remains the furthest that the Rams have advanced in the national tournament. The 85-86 squad was inducted into the Jefferson Athletics Hall of Fame in 2014. Vinny was inducted individually in 1994. Julie, as we wrap things up, a lot of highlights from that year. What would you say is the legacy of that team? What continues to stand out the most to you?
That team to me epitomized why student athletes play and why I coach. They truly cared for each other. There were no petty jealousies. They wanted to do what it took to win and win the right way. They were hardworking. They loved each other. They really, truly loved each other, and they had fun. And, as Vincene said earlier, I forget some of the score. I didn't know the Lock Haven and the Mercy score. There are certain games that did stick out to me as I reminisced about this. But I will always remember how deeply those kids cared about each other and how deeply they cared about the game and being the best they could be. That's what stands out to me most of all. I loved coaching them. I can't say, there have been other teams I've loved coaching too, but probably this is one of my top ones of a group that I really, really appreciated for what they did for the school, but what they did for each other.
My last question is for you, Vinny. You were a 3-time All-American, over 2,000 points, the all-time leader in rebounds, member of the Hall of Fame. The team improved each year you were there. So what stands out the most to you about your career?
Wow. Well, I could probably spend all of the 4 minutes, but to keep it short and simple, the mere fact that it happened. Textile at the time, Philadelphia Textile, me winding up there was kind of a fluke as you go back into history. I graduated a year earlier than I was supposed to, and I went to Textile and audition when they had auditions, and I guess they liked what they seen, and they said, hey, you know what, come in the summer, and we're going to give you a scholarship. And for me, coming from the inner city and finding a place where I felt comfortable and where I was embraced and I was taught and learned, and I became a part of a family, and for that family to continue to grow, and we accomplished a lot of things together over the next 4 years, and some friendships that developed even after Textile. That was the biggest thing that I could take away, and I still hold dear to my heart from being a part of Textile basketball. Yes, all of the accolades and the Final Four and the games and the wins and the losses mean a lot too, but the overall experience was the biggest thing that I enjoyed, and definitely falling in love with Julie. Thanks for bringing the best out of all of us, because again, I think everything starts with the coach and ends with the coach, and we owe a lot to her. Thank her, and as we always did, and appreciate your guidance. And even till this day, thanks for remembering some of the things that I didn't forget, but that I forgot. So I appreciate and I admire you as well. So that was my take on it.
Thank you.
Well, thank you both very much. We hope you enjoyed this flashback to the 1985-86 Rams women's basketball season. Julie Soriero and Vincene Morris, thank you very much for joining me.
All right.
Thanks for having us.